great show so far. I hope you're spending some time over at the main show, buying some raffle tickets and talking to vendors, and enjoying the seminars as we go. Today we've got Dustin Green with the talking about with the Albacore Tuna Club, talking about tuna fishing tactics. I'm not even going to pretend to do a better introduction because he knows a whole lot more about this stuff than I do. So he and his crew will present. They've got a lot of great gear, and please welcome Dustin Green. Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody hear me okay? Oh, great. There you go. How about that? Now? Yeah. Okay. We're on.
You shut the lights off above, so.
Yeah.
Man.
No, I cannot.
Go ahead and
do that.
I'll take care of the light.
But he can. As he said, I'm Dustin Green, captain of the Outlaw with Gambler Charter. Also current president of the Albacore Tuna Club. This is Chad Weller. He's part of my tournament crew. Appreciates me a lot. Also a fellow captain. The Gambler is a 30-foot North River Sounder. If you've been over to the show, you've probably seen the Gambler boat, which is our new boat. Jen will be running this year. So we've got two boats that we charter out of Albacore, fishing for bottom fish, deep water, lingcod and halibut, salmon, obviously, tuna, and then crab trips in the fall. So I'll give you a brief outline real quick of what we're going to talk about. We'll get into a little bit about planning a trip, and then I'll touch briefly on the bar crossing because I'm sure not everybody here comes to the Columbia River Bar, so they don't really need to know much about that. So I'll give you a couple of tools regarding the bar crossing. Then we'll get into troll gear or troll spread, and then how to convert that troll fish into wide open bait stops and jackpot stops. At the end, we'll talk about the gear a little bit, and then have some time for some Q&A, that kind of thing. So we'll get started on planning a trip. Obviously, you look online, you go to, Terrapin, I use Terrapin. There's a bunch of them out there. Doesn't matter which one you use. They all get the same data from the same satellites. So when you don't get those clean images, you still got to try to figure out, where to go out there. So I'm fortunate that I fish out there a lot, so I kind of have my own, intel from having gone a few days before. But when you don't have that, it's good to have a network of guys that you can rely on. Excuse me. So I stress, get to know the guys in your port. Whatever port you fish out of, get to know the other captains, the other guys that run for tuna. It's always beneficial to you to have friends out there for safety reasons, and also for passing intel back and forth. It really helps cut down on fuel and everything else, when you get to know the guys around you. So I really stress on doing that. But one thing that we rely on a lot is the buoy data through NOAA. I don't know if you guys know about that, not many people do, but if you pull up NOAA's website, you just put it in your phone or whatever, NOAA buoy data, and it'll come up, and there's all their weather buoys out there. For us, it's the 46029. We just call it the 29 buoy, but if you put that in the little search bar up there, it'll give you the buoy data. You kind of got to scroll down to see it, but it updates every couple minutes. So a lot of times we'll look at that. I'll always look at that the day before, especially if I haven't gone and it's supposed to be an improvement forecast. But if you've been offshore, those aren't always true. So look at it the day before, and then always when I wake up in the morning, I'm gonna look at that so I can see, make sure that the forecast did improve and it's not cruddy out there, because you're seeing what the weather's doing offshore versus just a forecast. So you can see real data, what the waves are doing, the wind waves, the wind direction, all that kind of stuff. So buoy data, real important. And then building up your network. Best way to do that really is just talking to the guys around you. Talk to the guys at the dock. When you get back to your trip, share how you did that day. Because even bad intel is still good intel. Because if I talk to somebody and I've got an idea, okay, this is where I'm going to go, and then I talked to somebody the night before that fished out there and it was kind of scratch fishing, well, I'm going to rethink. Maybe I want to go a few miles further north or something like that. So building up that network, sharing your intel with other people, really important to help build that and get those people that you can rely on to shoot a text to and find out where they were, how they did, and fish out of Albacore, you'll hear us talking about it a lot on the radios. And it's usually just two numbers over two numbers, 18 over 52. And anybody out here that can tell me what we're talking about when we say 18 over 52? Right, but which numbers? Correct. So we're too smart to remember 10 digits over 10 digits, and or whatever, however many there are. So we're always just referring to the second set of numbers, basically. So the 18 would be your north line, and the 52 would be your east-west line. And obviously 124 for us. It's 52 because we're not running 70 miles to the 125, 52, 80 or however far that is, long ways. Yeah. And then for us, it's the 45 and the 46. So if it's low numbers, we're close to the corners for us, which is south of Albacore. If it's higher numbers, it's further north towards Westport. So that's what we're referring to. And a lot of times that's the intel that you're going to get from people. You know, if you talk to me back at the dock, and I'll say, yeah, we did great up at the 10 over 50, and that's what we're talking about. And really, you don't need the entire set of coordinates. You don't need an exact spot because those fish aren't going to be in the same spot they were the day before. You know, the ocean's moving, the fish are moving. So just getting that general area is really all you need to find fish and to be, in a good area. So we talk about that, and then once you get out there, we're getting more and more people fishing offshore. And the one thing to remember is it's not buoy 10, you're not fishing Drano. Keep your distance from other boats. Sometimes you'll see spots where, there's a bunch of boats congregated in an area, everybody's trolling. I try to stay away from those groups because if I do get a stop going, it's not gonna last very long just because there's so many boats trolling around. And I've never, I don't know if you have, Chad, but I've never seen when we're on a bait stop, and I've had guys troll from here to the wall away from us in Soundware School. I've never seen anybody troll line hook up. Those fish are keyed in on bait at that point. And the bottom of your hole supposedly looks like a school of fish. And so, school of bait, and so those tuna are keyed in on it. And another school of bait isn't gonna drive by them. So all they do is sound, and you kind of just ruin the stop for the other guys. So keep your distance, especially if you see another boat stopped. I like to stay at least 200-300 yards away from them. There's no reason to troll by. You're not gonna hook up. You're just gonna sound out of school. So we'll get into the bar crossing. And really I'm just gonna touch quick on when we're, the terminology, sorry, couldn't think of the word. When we're, you'll hear us talking about the red line or the green line, things like that. That's, get familiar with that. The red line is obviously the red buoys going along the south jetty when you're heading out. The green line is the north line. We're constantly talking about that on the radio so you can get current information instead of, everybody gets on their boats. First thing they do is they call the Coast Guard and can I get a bar report? Well, the Coast Guard went out there at 5 in the morning, 5:15 in the morning to get that bar report. By the time you launch your boat, put all your gear on it, get bait, and start heading out, it's probably 7:30, 8 o'clock. So that bar report's a couple hours old. So it's not going to be the same as what they said. That bar is always changing. Best thing you can do, go ahead and get the bar report just so you have an idea what it's like. But we're on channel 11 in Albacore. Turn it to 11. You're going to hear captains talking back and forth. We're always letting each other know. Whoever gets out there first is relaying back information. And so if you turn it on 11, you're going to hear people talking about the bar. And that's what you're going to hear is, yeah, we went across the green line or the red line or something.
Is there a channel with the two guys? How many operators are the channel with?
For Albacore, we're usually on 11.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like every port has a different one, but out of Albacore, I'm assuming more, yeah, pretty much out of the Columbia River. Yeah, everybody. Yeah. I know Westport's a different one too. But yeah, we're on 11. So I always tell people just keep on 11. You're going to hear us talking, and you'll hear a current report on the bar instead of something that's a couple hours. Next, we will get into our approach. So our approach is all basically about getting things done quickly. And what I like to tell everybody is the most important fish is the next fish. So I see it all the time out there. I see boats hook up on troll and they stop. And one guy goes and grabs a net or a gaff and standing next to the guy for 10 minutes, 15 minutes while he lands that fish. You're losing an opportunity right there to get all your rods hooked up. So especially when you're fishing bait, you want to get all the rods hooked up. There's no reason to stand there. Everybody should be fishing at that point. Try and get all the rods hooked up because you can be fighting a fish. And the way we do it is whoever gets the fish close to the surface, they yell net, and then whoever's closest to them or to the net, put your fish in the rod holder, go grab it, net it, land it, get back to your fish, let him deal with it. So take advantage of that. That fish is bringing that school to your boat. So take advantage of that and get gear in the water as quick as you can. Yes.
How fast are you traveling in order to, are you staying like at 3 miles an hour or something like that so you keep the fish straight?
When you're trolling?
No, when you're landing a bunch.
Oh, we're stopping. Yeah. Because we're fishing live bait, so we're taking the boat out of gear and but I'll get into that a little bit. But so most important fish is the next fish. So remember that when you're remind your crew of that. You've already got that one hooked. Don't worry about that one. Get on to the next one. Get another one hooked. Because with tuna, with those big schools, you want to take advantage. When you get an opportunity, you want to take advantage of it because especially on those slower troll days, you may only get 5 or 6 opportunities throughout the day. So you want to take advantage of it every time and do the best that you can with each stop if you really want to have successful days out there. So the other part of our approach is speed and consistency. And what I mean about speed is not how fast we're traveling or anything like that. It's our whole system is designed on being able to get a rod back in the water quickly. Whether it comes to trolling, we use a quarter-turn barrel swivel, and all our leaders have a barrel swivel on the end, so that if we get tangled up or something, we just take one off, grab another, put it on, and get back to fishing. So everything that we do is about getting it done quickly to take advantage of those opportunities. And then consistency. That's we do the exact same thing every time. We've got a plan in place when we hook on troll. I'll talk to, even on charter trips, I'll let the guys know at the dock, okay, this is what we do when we hook up. And we do it the exact same every single time, again, to take advantage of every opportunity, because you don't know which one is gonna be the one that the school outcomes. And if you aren't ready and trying to get quicker at that, you may lose it. So, and you come back to 5 or 6 fish instead of 50 or 60 or 70. So, speed, consistency, those are key. So we'll get into troll, and then I'll kind of go over our system that we use. Troll spread. A lot of guys ask about distance back from the boat, how far apart we run our stuff. I'm changing mine all the time throughout the day, and it really depends on one, the size of your boat. A great big diesel boat with twin diesels in it. Real wide boat is going to throw big wide wake. So their gear is going to be totally different than mine with twins, and even more different, with a boat that's out there just running one motor. So trying to do it the exact same as a different boat, really may not work for you. It may, that might just be the sweet spot for your boat, but you kind of got to find it. For me, the most important thing is that my gear is fishing. I don't want to see clones or cedar plug. I don't want to see anything slapping on the surface. I want it under the water fishing. Because I find when it's on the surface, there's just already all that air bubbles and turned up water. I don't think they can see it as well. You get it under the surface, and it works better. And so I'll play with the distance. I run mine in a V. So I run the side blenders. I don't know if you guys have used these, but they're wonderful for getting your spread out wide. There's a right and a left, and these are just like a little boat, and they take your gear way out to the side. So, and when you're using these, yeah, go ahead.
How fast do you go?
I'm going, it depends on the ocean conditions and which direction. So again, to me, it's the gear fishing. So I'm running usually 6 knots to 8 knots, but in the later season, if I'm just trolling swim baits, I'm gonna be going like 4 knots. So I'm changing that a lot too. I'm not doing the same speed every single time out. And when you change directions and you're pounding into it, you know, you're gonna have to change your speed a little bit to make sure your gear's fishing. And then when you're going with it, you're already kind of going fast. So you might slow off a little bit because the current's pushing you that way. So I'm not running the same speed every time either. I'm looking at the gear and making sure the gear is fishing instead of just worrying about, I gotta go 6.4 knots or something like that.
You don't want everything to go under the water, you don't want it skipping on the water.
I don't, these skip on the water, but I want this stuff in the water. I want it, you know, a lot of times you can still see it, but I don't want it skipping on the surface. On top of the wake, I'll move it back a little bit so it's on the back side of it. I want this in the water.
How long leaders are you running on your side tenders?
I run 9 to 10 feet. Yeah, so I've got a bag with long leaders and short leaders. And my short ones are just when we're just a rod and no attractor. And I run the long stuff on this. And sometimes if it's real rough, I'll run the long ones off of my outriggers too. So I'll kind of play with those. So side planters are my furthest back, and those go out the widest. They can go out further past than my outriggers will reach. So those go out the furthest and the furthest back. And
So how much,
what's that?
how many feet are you, is it 100?
Again, it changes for me all the time. But I'm roughly 100 feet back or so probably. With those is where I'll start them. And then I'm inside of that by 20 feet with my outriggers, and inside of that another 20 feet with the 2 rods that I run in the prop line. And if it's calm, yeah.
You said you run it, in your wake, you run it in front or just behind?
If I'm running these guys, these can be in front of it as long as as long as I'm not seeing the foam sitting like at the top of a wake, skip on the surface. I'm running these. I don't care where this is at as long as my foam is.
And if you're not running those,
But this is way out in the clean water, so it's not really in the lake.
but if you're not running those, where do you, how far back do you run your flows compared to your wake?
Well, some are in it, but I always run these. I always run my side platter, so it's hard to say, but 100 feet, that's basically my furthest back, roughly.
But on the front side or the back side of the wake?
When you can see the clone, as long as it's in the water, it may be on the front side, but as long as it's down and I can see that it's down under it, I'm fine with it. But what I don't want to see is it sitting right at the top of it, bouncing on top. So that, you can kind of play with that too. In rough days, it may be, different than calm days. So, but if my 2 closest ones are skipping on the water, I'm going to move everything back. So I want to keep that distance. I don't want any of them, running it all at the same. So V pattern, and like I said, if I have to move the closest ones back, I'm gonna move everything back a little bit, just so I can keep that distance between them the same. That for me is pretty much always the same. It's just how far that is. It varies all the time. So in the morning, it may be rougher, so my gear's further back to be swimming. As it gets nicer, I'm gonna bring that stuff as close as I can to the boat, so we can convert those bait stops easier and quicker, again, speed and, getting that done fast.
Run a shotgun?
Sometimes. Early in the season, if it's more of a troll bite and we're not doing great converting, I'll run a shotgun, but most of the time I'm running 6. Late in the season, like in September, there's days when we don't even get troll gear out, we're just running gun for jumpers. But if we're not seeing them, or if it's kind of rough, so you can't really see the jumpers, we'll pare it down to 4. And, maybe just run swim baits, so, and slow down. But I'll drink real quick.
Do you run any shotgun rack that are 700-800 feet behind the boat looking for movement?
If we're in an area where we've seen them, we had one trip last year where we saw a bunch right before getting to where we were going to start albacore fishing, and we did in that case, but not very often. If it's a really slow day, then we'll start playing around and putting stuff everywhere. But if we're catching fish, I'm not running one way back because we forget about it. It ends up getting tangled in our bait fish and all that kind of stuff. I'm just running the 6. Yeah.
Do you worry about matching colors? Or
Yes.
you do?
I'm big on matching colors. I know guys that fish all different colors and do just as good. So I don't think it matters a lot. Me personally, I like matching the colors.
How about size?
Size varies. Yeah.
But do you match size or do you
again, I've got like the same ones that I put out almost every time, and then on those tricky days when they're just not biting very good, then I play with the sizes and colors and all that. But 90% of the time when I'm going out there and fish are cooperating, I just run the same clones until they wear out, and I got to get them. So I don't play around a lot with different ones. I find a color that's working for me, and I'll fish it. And then if we don't get bit for a few hours, then we'll put a different color out there. But for the most part, I'm running the same ones that I have confidence in, that I know are catching fish. Those are the ones I'm gonna run. Yeah.
When you guys are hooked into those Dorados, are you just regular tuna fishing?
Yeah, we were Albacore fishing. Yeah. Yeah, we actually hooked into 3 that day. We had one hit. We're like, oh, because they jump out of the water when they hit. We're like, holy cow, that was a Dorado. And we go to grab the rod and it's off. We're like, oh, kidding me? And then another one goes off. We're like, holy crap, it hit again. And then that one, I think, popped off. And then the third, so I don't know if it was a school or the same fish that was going after each one, but the third one finally stuck and we got him. Yeah.
You use single hook or double hook?
I use these doubles on my clones. Yeah, single hook leader, but double hook. Yeah, yeah. The swim baits and stuff are just single hooks, but yeah, my clones are too. Let's see, where were we? We were talking about troll spread. So we got the V pattern. We talked about that. Yep.
You ever run birds?
Occasionally, and again, just on the slow days. My spread is the same: side planers, outriggers, prop wash with no attractors except for the side planers. Unless we're struggling for fish, then we'll play around, throw some birds on and stuff. But if I do put an attractor on at any time, I'm gonna put that longer leader on, that 10-foot leader, instead of the 5-footer. Yeah.
What are your favorite clones?
I like these ones. Remember the name of these kind?
No, I genuinely,
I don't either. But they're the rubber ones, and you can replace the heads on them. They just screw on and off. So I've got some of the heads up here to show you, but so it's got a little metal thing with a screw post on it, and then you can, I think they come with the 2-ounce heads, but you can buy the 3.5. These are the 3.5 Magnum heads. And I've got a couple up here that you can see.
Is that like a 6-shooter head?
What's that?
Is that a 6-shooter head?
I believe, yes, that's what they're called, yeah. So 2-ounce and 3.5 ounce. And again, on rougher days, I'm gonna be running those heavier ones to make them swim. And we'll play with those too. On calm days, I'm probably running the lighter heads because you don't need the heavy ones. But I like those ones because I can change the heads. But the last few years, the Seahawk color ones that, I don't remember that brand either, but they're kind of a blue and green color has been killing it. So, but those are the type that you can't play with the heads on.
You run a diver to run deep?
I run them on a hand line. If we don't have bait, a few years back we didn't have bait, so we were playing with all kinds of troll stuff. But for us, our main goal is to get to bait fishing. So the divers take a while to get in. They're really difficult on a rod, so I don't use those in our normal situation. But if we don't have bait or the bait died for some reason, then we'll play around with different troll stuff. But for us, our main thing is getting to that live bait spot. Because that's where we put on the big numbers of fish. You can 2Z, 3Z all day long, get troll fish, and get 20, 25 fish, and that's a good day work.
So you do those on the hand line?
I run them on hand line, yeah. So, on my close hand lines. But again, not very often. I don't think I've put those out in a couple years. So,
sometimes I've used X wraps often because they get down.
right, yeah, we'll do a Nomad or an X wrap or something on those close ones. If we're finding that it's almost harder cold days, we'll try, running a plug that dies instead of a dive. Yeah, we'll do that before we pull the dive. So now we'll get into our process once we, get all the troll gear out and we start fishing. We'll kind of start talking about that now. So we talked about the spread, we get that out, but before I even get the troll gear in the water, I'm getting all of our bait rods down and they're lined up around the bait tank. So that we know that we're ready. The second a troll rod goes off, we're ready to go. And at that time, if we've got somebody that hasn't got tuna before, we'll usually put them on the first fish, and then everybody else goes and grabs the rod. So as soon as that troll fish hits, I'm popping it, I know some guys troll further, and if you're at a port that doesn't have bait, you know, yeah, you troll, play with your, you know, do some zigzags, whatever. We have bait, so we're trying to get the bait right away. I'm popping it out of gear, and I'm turning the motors so that the boat will drift and eventually turn sideways. Just mainly because that's a walk around, so I can spread guys out. And so I'm turning it. First thing I do, grab a scoop and I throw it in on one side of the boat, grab a scoop, throw it in on the other side, and then I start baiting rods. And the crew are all clearing rods. And for us, have a place that's, you know, a safe place to put your pro gear that's out of the way. For us, it's along the sides, the two side doors, just have the cheap little foam lock-in rod holders that I just show the guys, just walk up and snap it in. It's just a vertical rod holder, just put it there. That way it's out of the way, we're not tripping on it, we're not breaking rods. The first guy that clears a rod, runs up the side, locks it in, and just waits there, and the other guys hand it to him, locks them in. And then as soon as they hand off the rod, I'm basically handing them one that's got a bait on. So we're trying to get those baits in the water. I'm throwing bait in the water right away, and then I'm baiting hooks. But we're trying to get a rod, fish, and bait in the water within 20 to 30 seconds of that troll fish hitting. So we're really trying to, and the quicker you can get that done, the more successful you're gonna be on those bait stops. So it's really key when fishing live bait is to take advantage of that troll hookup. That troll fish is bringing fish to you. You're throwing bait in the water right away to encourage the school to follow that fish to the boat. And then you're getting rods in the water with bait on. So that's kind of that's how we do it. It works really well, is quick, just get it done quick. I hear guys all the time, always struggling on bait, and I haven't fished on a boat, I know what the problem is. I know he's not getting it done quick enough.
When you throw your live bait out,
Uh-huh.
you leave, where you can throw it out, leave your bail open.
We'll talk about that next. Yep. So, three things to remember when fishing live bait. The first one is wind in your face. So, always have the wind in your face when you're fishing live bait. That's why I turned the boat a little bit. If you fish on the downwind side, instead of going out and away from the boat, because your boat's drifting, so you're gonna drift right over your bait, and that bait's gonna go to the other side and get tangled up with those ones, or get caught in the motors, or whatever, anything down your transducer, it's just gonna get just a problem. So always put the wind in your face. The other thing that you wanna make sure of, well, really, there's three things, but we'll digress a little bit. So wind in your face, angles mean tangles. That goes for fighting the fish and fishing live bait. So you got 4 guys lined up on one side of the boat, you put a bait in the water, it does one of these numbers. You need to be following it just like you're fighting a fish, so that, you know, when a fish does hit, he's not tangling up all 4 rods. So follow your fish, just like when you're tuna fishing. You don't stand in one corner and try and find a fish. You don't fish bait and just sit in one spot if you've got one that's a good swimmer, but is taken off. And the last thing to remember is never set the hook. Never, ever set the hook. When your line just starts screaming off your reel, count to 5, engage the drag, and start fighting. That's all you gotta do. They're already running 40, 50 miles an hour. If you set the hook, you just pull the bait and the hook right out of it. So don't set the hook, engage the drag, wait, you know, give them time to get up to speed, engage the drag, fight the fish. So when you first get that line, or your rod, you put that bait in the water, what you wanna do is you wanna make sure you have a good swimmer. If you don't have a good swimmer, you're not fishing.
Do you leave your first fish on to keep it attractant, or do you just bring them in and hope?
No, sometimes. Yeah. I mean, we do, we kind of.
I watched him hang a live bait fish on the bow for 45 minutes.
Yeah, sometimes we kind of forget about those ones, so. But yeah, no, we'll hang fish, and a lot of times it's not to attract more, it's to help somebody out that, you know, has an issue, or to net a fish. We net all our fish. The only reason for that is when I started doing this commercially 8, 9, 10 years ago, the processors wouldn't buy them with a hole in them, so we just got used to netting, and so now we just net all our fish. I do find that it cuts down on you know, blood in the water, blood on the deck, and I'm using a smaller shop rod net. I'm not using a great big hooped salmon net, because those big long fins, they just get tangled up in them. I'm using a smaller net with a small hoop. The other thing you can do is zip tie your bag, so that it's almost more like a scoop. You're kind of just scooping them out of the water and plopping them on the deck. You don't want a great big net. Plop them on and then leave it to the guy that's hooked up to deal with get it unhooked and get it in the water. So back to good swimmers. When you get that bait in the water, what you want to see that thing do is swim down and away from you. You get those ones that are just cruising on the surface that are swimming great, but they won't go down. You can tug on them a little bit, see if you can get them to go down. If not, just get rid of them, because all that thing's going to do is go out there and get sharked up. The other ones that just kind of swim right around the boat, just again, you can try and tug on them. You're not tugging hard, but give them a little tug to see if you can get them to start swimming. If not, get rid of it. You're not fishing. Get another one. Get a good one on. Get one on that's going to go down and away. When you get one on that just takes off, we're all like, oh yeah, this one's getting bit. And sure enough, you get bit. I always have the guys leave the clickers on. If I'm fishing with my experienced guys that know how to fish, I don't worry about that. But especially with charter trips, or if you're taking guys out that aren't real familiar with it, just have them leave the clicker on, leave the reel in free spool, and just peel line out. And I tell them, peel out 7-8 feet, stop for a second, make sure you feel that bait swimming. You're gonna feel it swimming a little bit. As long as you feel that, keep giving them some more line. Pause for a second, make sure you're feeling it. You want to know that bait's fishing. And even if it starts out doing good, and then you haven't felt it in a while, give them a little tug. If you don't feel them swimming, get a new bait. So I don't waste time with bad swimmers.
Newport doesn't have live bait. Do you
Yeah.
have comments regarding just using frozen herring? How do you use it?
I haven't done it a lot. I've only fished dead bait a handful of times, so I'm by far not an expert when it comes to fishing dead bait. So you're better off talking to guys from down there that have dead bait, because I don't fish enough to know.
Do you shut down your motors?
Sometimes, if I remember, or if usually not right away, but if we've been on a stop for a while, then I'll reach over and turn them off. Just because I realize, shoot, we've been here for half hour, 45 minutes. There's no reason for these to be on. But I know guys that do it right off the bat, and there's just too much going on. I don't worry about turning them off right then. But we don't even know if we're gonna get them going. So once we get them going and I remember about it, I'll turn them off. But I don't always, and it's not part of my plan.
You find that gaffing them coming in and netting them keeps the sharks down also?
Yeah, very much. Because the other thing, when you gap them instantly, there's some blood, but then you get them in your boat, there's blood all over the place, going out your scuppers. When you net them, you can dehook them. A lot of times they're still bleeding anyway, but it's not as bad. And then we take them, hold them over the bleed barrel, nape them, and throw them in. So most of the blood has ended up in the bleed barrel.
Blood irrigation is huge.
Yeah, it does. It helps. Yeah.
Or when do you fish weights on your
When we're drifting too fast, or it's kind of rough and you're just having a hard time getting them down, we'll throw a weight on there. And again, the size depends on, if we're really drifting fast, we'll put a bigger piece of pencil lead on. Things like that.
the sharks? Is there ever a shark issue? If you get your sharks up, you find something where it's weight on the.
Yeah, if you can get them to get down past the sharks, then the more better you're going to be. So, yeah, definitely. Adding some lead to it helps. I don't like doing it, but there's days that you have to.
Are you brain spiking your fish?
Not usually. I mean, if they're going bonkers on me and I just stop so I can get the hook out, then yeah, I'm gonna either pound them with the club or brain spike them. But for the most part, we're just put more lead in the barrel. So good swimmers, real important. Let's see. Talk about that. So when to get the jack poles out? We'll talk about that. If you guys have never jack pulled tuna, yeah, it's the funnest thing you can do out there.
It's terrible.
It really is. So these are the jack poles. I've seen guys make them out of sturgeon blanks. But it's just a rod, the leader. I like to tie, 6 inches to a foot from the length, and that way I can just throw a jig wrap around it. And then I have these in my gunnel. I always have 2 or 3 of them on the boat, because you never know when that jack pole, the fish are going to be willing to jack pole. And the way that we know when that's going to happen, we're fishing live bait, everything's we're doing great. While we're fishing live bait too, while you're getting baited up and everybody else is fishing or whatever, we'll grab a handful of bait and throw it in the water. You want to keep feeding them bait, not like just handful after handful after handful, but you're throwing 2 or 3 out every 5 minutes or so. You're giving them some extras, plus all those ones that you're not good swimmers. You can either just kind of tug it to try and get it out, but sometimes that doesn't pull free. But when you get out, just throw it in the water. So you're constantly feeding that school, keeping them at the boat. But once you're even in the middle of a wide open bait stop, everybody's hooking up either when you throw some bait in the water, or you put your bait that's on your rod in the water, and you see those tuna dart out from under the boat and attack it. All of our guys know that they just yell out jack. And when we hear that, everybody that's not hooked up is reeling in real fast, and we're gonna clear all the rods and put them back up in the rod holders so that they're not even around the bait tank anymore. We get all the rods out of the way. The guys that do have fish are gonna try and get them out of the way. For us, we try and send them to the bow or at least up the side of ways to get them out of the way of where we're gonna be jack pulling. And then I like doing 2-person teams. You don't have to, it depends on the skill level of your guys. But I like doing 2-person teams. So one guy's on the rod, the other guy's either on a net, because you can just jack pull them to the net. You don't have to yard them up in the boat, especially if your boat's not real wide.
Do you use jack poles? Do you use
Yeah, I know the commercial guys use they keep their boat going like 1 knot, and they use the little swim baits, but they're throwing bait in the water to get the schools to come to them. And I'm sure that would work too, if you really get them going. But you need bait, so you at least need chum, but I bet you could get them going.
They also have like several.
Yeah, they have a ton of bait that they're throwing in the water. Yeah, a lot more than what we can carry. We carry a lot for a sport boat, but nothing like what those guys can carry. Yeah.
How much bait do you typically carry?
So I've got a 92-gallon tank, so I can take 8 scoops if I want to. But I usually take, if we're going, it depends on how many fish that we're gonna go out and target. If it's a commercial trip and we're going out to get as many as we can, and the fishing's been real good, I'll take 8 scoops. But most of my trips, I'm taking 4 to 6, depending on how many the clients wanna catch. If we're going for 40 to 50 fish, I'm taking 4 scoops. If we're going for 60, 70, 80, they'll take more. But a lot of times I'm taking 4 scoops. But back to the jack pulling. So the 2-person teams, the one guy's on the rod, the other guy's either on the net, or if they're capable of yarding them in, he's just helping get that fish unhooked, naping it, getting it baited. And it's real important when one guy's on the rod, the other guy's baiting it up, I always look at him and say, are you ready? Because the last thing you want to do is throw that thing in the water and that guy's not paying attention, because you're either going to lose the rod or he's going to take a ride into the gut. You've got to be ready to go, because they're hitting this thing going 50 miles an hour. So what you want to do is basically, you're ready. Yes, I'm ready. They throw it in the water, and that way this guy's ready. And as soon as that thing hits, they're coming up to get it. So you want to use their momentum, and basically you're just dragging them to the boat, or you're flipping them up in the boat. But you're using their momentum. If you wait and they get their head, and they start going down, you're probably going to break. This is 150. I think so. I think it's 150 pound fluoro. Yeah, it's either 150 or 200, and a 3/0 gorilla hook, and they're gonna break it under, pull the hook out, or I've even I broke it trying to fling one in last year. First time I ever broke one. It was pretty cool. Sounded like a shotgun going off my hand, and we still landed it somehow. But
Take it for a ride on a jack pole.
yeah. Oh, if you jack pole, you're gonna eat the gun. It's gonna happen. They just yeah.
So you're gonna break them off, or you're gonna lose the fish.
What's your preferred way to put the hook in bait?
So forgot to talk about that. I'm a collar guy. It's just kind of how I learned to do it, and So it's just, I'm quickest that way. But sometimes, a couple years ago, we had really big baits, and those collar hooks, they didn't want to swim down very much, so we did the, the dorsal one. I'll also play around with the one through the nose, you go in here and out between the nostrils. But I'm a collar guy, and what that is so basically I'm right-handed, so I'm grabbing a scoop, I'm always gonna pick out the most lively one that I can find in there, and I'm gonna get him with his head facing towards my thumb, and you use your thumb, so I'm kind of cupping him with my hand like that. You don't want to squeeze them really hard, but you need to put enough pressure that they don't slip out of your hand, but you don't want to squeeze them. And then you use your thumb to just turn their head to the side, and then right behind the gills is that gill plate. You don't want to put it through the gills because they're going to bleed out, but just right through that little gill plate. And we use number 2 owner fly liner, ringed. We always use ringed hooks for our live bait hooks. Those gorilla hooks are non-ringed. So 3/0 gorilla hook for the jack pole, number 2 fly liner ringed by owner. I think the gorilla hooks are up by
What pound cast are you in on the jack pole?
150, 200 pounds, somewhere in there. Yeah, fluoro. We're not using mono for those.
Number 2 or number 2/0?
2, number 2. They're tiny. They look like a trout hook. Yep. Yeah. In fact, we've got one on the bait rod that we can show you. What are we doing with that? 15 minutes left. So yeah. We can pass around, I guess.
So what was the size of the hook that was number 2 on?
So number 2 for live bait, number 2 owner fly liner, ringed. So you'll see it on there. It's got a little tiny ring, and that ring just helps that bait swim more naturally.
England Marine will have plenty of them.
Yeah, I usually order them online just because you can buy bulker bags online. Yeah.
So talk a little bit about your, live bait leaders, what pound test you're running. and
Okay,
what-
so I keep all of mine on a spool like this, and I can see. I don't have glasses. I'm dark in here, but yeah, you can go ahead and turn the lights back on. So, these ones somebody else tied, so they're shorter than what I usually do. But so basically, what we do on these is you spool one up, and then the next hook goes through it, and it goes on the ring, and then you just wrap that loop around. And so we just keep this on one of the rod holders. That way, if we're sharked up or it's buried in their gullet, we're just gonna cut that leader and grab a fresh one. I've always got a handful of spools on the boat. We go through a ton of leaders. I always keep a 30-pound spool on the boat, but I probably haven't used one in 3 or 4 years. It's mainly 40-pound fluoro. These ones, like I said, somebody else tied up, and they're shorter than I like. I like them about 3 to 4 feet long. These ones are probably 30 inches or so. But yeah, and I always use fluoro, always fluoro on your live bait leaders. And I just do a friction loop at the loop end and a polymer knot at the hook. On the jack pole ones, we'll do the friction loop on both, and that loop kind of allows that because it's a non-ringed hook. And I don't know why, but the ringed ones don't seem to work very well on the jack pole. The non-ringed ones definitely work better. But any other questions? Yeah, back to that.
Are you jigging at all?
Yeah, we'll jig, especially when you kind of sense the bites dying down, and you can still see them on the school or on the fish finder. They're down deeper. In fact, we started using last year. Last few years, started experimenting with the slow pitch rods, and fell in love with those last year. Jake over at Talon, they do all our rods. He came out with a slow pitch rod that actually. We're famous for that. You sure you want to do that? So these ones, so a normal slow pitch rod will bend all the way through the handle. So once you hook up, you have to just point the rod in the water and use the reel to reel them in. But Jake put some backbone in this so it doesn't start bending until up here. So you can actually fight a fish on these slow pitch rods a little bit. It's still not the same as one of the big ones, but yeah, it's similar to a standard jig rod. But these, I mean, it's like catching a tuna on an ultralight trout rod. they're amazing. So I jig more. I've been known to throw rods in the water when I'm jigging. So
These don't float.
they don't float. But the and it's not because I'm angry. They just, my hands, they just disappear. I'm like, oh, that's great. So I'm not the best at jigging, but Chad is. He's a stud when it comes to jigging. But with those, I'll do it more often with those slow pitch rods. Yeah.
You mentioned something that caught my attention, when you're jigging and you hook up, point the rod in the water.
Yeah, that's with a slow pitch rod that doesn't have any backbone. Most of them don't. So other brands, I think Jake is the first one that's actually, Talon is the first one that put a little backbone on one of those. A standard jig rod does. So he made them more similar to a standard jig rod, but the same size as a slow pitch rod. So it's ultralight. It's got a little bit different action on the jig. I like it. Usually use a Travaller.
Yeah. But what's nice about these, I mean, your jigging setup, you want to be as light as possible because
It's tiring.
if you're gonna put in like a session where, you can't get them through the surface and they're gonna hang in that 20 to 100 foot zone where your bait's not gonna get, you're gonna be,
Ripping a long time.
2,000 strokes a day. And I mean, your shoulders are really feeling it, every ounce counts.
Yeah. So those light ones make that a lot easier.
Swim
Swim baits? Sure. Yeah. We'll. I usually have 2 rods up on the bow for swim baits, and that's if we see a pile of birds or see a log out there or something, we're casting a swim bait or an iron at them. So yeah, we'll cast some irons.
Irons are great for that too.
Yeah.
So for your live bait, what was the poundage for your leader?
40. Yeah. You can experiment with 30. I like to get them in pretty quick. So I like the 40 pound, and if they're playing, I'm going to keep using 40 pound. But on those days when we're having trouble converting, they just don't want to. We know the fish are around, but they're boat shy or leader shy or something, and we'll put the 30 pound on instead of the 40 pound. But most of the time on 40 pound. Any other questions? Yeah.
When you run into this big pods of whales out there, 50 or whatever, then, I don't know, bottlenose, well,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Do you try and move out of that area? Do you find that?
It's more the dolphins. When we get those big school of dolphins, I don't think I've ever caught much tuna in those big schools of dolphins. So if you're fishing in those, then yeah, we'll troll away from them.
Are you using serious fish mapping when you get out there?
I am, yep. I started using that a couple years ago. That's what he's talking about is the Sirius XM, the fish mapping. It's great for, it actually shows you where the temp breaks and stuff are on your fish finder. So you can, if you're in an area that you're kind of struggling, you can go to that fish mapping and zoom out a little bit. And what I try to find are those concentration zones where there's a temp break and a weed line or something and they're coming together. That's usually it's pretty accurate. I don't know how they get that information, and Terrapin and everybody else has got just a white screen, but it's really accurate.
Have these figures, the plankton shows the 4, that's the best. The plankton, is that the
I haven't played much with the plankton part of it. I'm more concerned with temp breaks and weed lines and stuff like that. But yeah, and chloral, yeah.
And that's under Sirius what?
Sirius XM, like the radio. So it's an antenna that you can get for your boat, and it ties into your Garmin or whatever product that you have. You just got to get the one for that. And I think there might be something that Garmin sells too. I had it for 3 or 4 years, but I think there's a unit that you have to install, and then you have to subscribe to it. What's that?
It's similar to the GPS.
Yeah, it looks like it's one of the GPS spots.
You like an XM4 receiver, I got a couple of
Yeah,
receivers
yeah.
to buy, and it's $150 a month.
Right. And then I just suspend it. I just use it during tuna season and then suspend it the rest of the year.
$150 is real cheap. Charging out $6 a gallon.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's another great tool to have. Any other questions? I think we got a couple more minutes. We can talk about gear. Yeah, we got 10 more minutes. Yeah. I'm using 65 on my live bait rods. I use braid on all of it. And I've got 85 on the troll. The only reason for that is we've hooked into some bluefin out there and some big ones, and got spools and broke off leaders, and so I try to go a little bit heavier on the troll gear.
Talk a little bit about ice.
About what? Ice?
Lots of it.
We take a lot. We take a lot of ice. Give me one sec. We do, I bet 800 to 1,000 pounds. Yeah. I've got a half tote in the front that we fill. My floor hold takes 3 cartfuls, 4 cartfuls. And that I allow to turn into a slurry. I can fit 35 to 40 in that. And then I keep a full half tote on the bow, and then we usually fill the garbage can up. That's our bleed barrel. We'll fill that up in the morning, and that way it kind of turns into a slurry so that when we're bleeding them, they're actually bleeding in some cold water.
So I think a lot of guys don't know how much they need.
Yeah, you need a lot of ice. If you want a good product, especially, and we learned that, because I was selling fish, and they're not gonna buy it if it's mushy, so, they core temp them, so they've gotta be, they gotta be cold in order for us to sell.
I think the rule of thumb that I heard is about 5 pounds per fish.
Yeah,
At least 5, 7.
yeah, it's a lot of ice. You really should keep a lot of ice. Oh, none of the big ones. We've hooked them and lost them, but little guys, I've got 3, I don't know, how many we got?
In 16 years, I personally,
Yeah, you got your first this
I got
year.
my first this last summer, and there's never been one pop on boat that I was fishing on in 16 years.
Yeah.
But there's some people.
But there's other guys that get them every year.
Yeah, like, I think, one of our friends that runs another charter, the next day, a client was tuna fishing for the very first time out of bluefin, their very first bait fishing.
Yeah, I had the same thing up
Yeah.
last year. He didn't even know what he had. I'm
I
like,
don't even
dude,
know that.
high five him. He's like, your first fish was a bluefin. And he's like, what? Is that good? Yeah, it's good.
Typical tuna.
So we're paying attention to the commercial guys, and we're watching that water, that warm water out in California. Once that kind of connects with ours, then one of our group there at the club, somebody's dumb enough to go try. But it just depends. A lot of the last couple of years, it's been right around the 4th of July. I think Jed went on the 5th or 3rd or something, and somebody went on the 4th and got fish, but he didn't on the 3rd. I don't pay a whole lot of attention to the temperature. I got guys on my crew asking, what's the temp? What's the temp? And it's like, it's warm. I mean, we haven't had those, we haven't had that water where it goes, 50 and then jumps, the big jumps. It's, once you get out there and you hit that blue water, it's blue enough. So when I'm running out to say, I'm gonna go to the 52 line. Well, we might start hitting that blue water at like the 40 line. I'm gonna be paying attention. I'm not just gonna go right to where my phone told me that, should be good water. I'm gonna be paying attention while I'm running out. As soon as we hit that blue water, if I see birds, if I see life, if it just feels fishy, I'm gonna stop and fish it. So don't get dead set on going to where somebody told you, to go or where you think they should be. Be paying attention as soon as you hit that blue water. If it looks fishy, fish it. Anybody else? Yeah.
My observation is sometimes the fish will be in the green water and it
Yep.
hasn't even changed color yet, but if you see jumpers or
Right, yeah.
birds or something, you
Yep.
may wanna make a decision, this could be fishy right here.
Yep, yeah, for sure.
A lot of big fish.
Yep, I think we run over a lot of fish when we go tuna fishing. We run over a lot of fish. But, we're fishermen. Yeah. So if, that's a good question. So if I just see one jumper, I'm probably just gonna troll by them. But if I see a school of jumpers, we're probably gonna bring that troll gear in and go slide in on them and go to bait right away. If I see a school of jumpers, we're getting rid of the troll gear and we're gonna slide in on them and target them. Then you could do the same thing with iron, but troll near them. I wouldn't troll right over the top of them, but kind of try. If you can tell if they're heading a certain direction, maybe try and troll up ahead of them a little bit and angle across them. But with if I see onesie twosies, I'll just kind of troll over that area. But if we see a bunch of jumpers, then we're going to stop and maybe fish iron on them or cast swim baits at them. You'll find, especially if you see a big school of jumpers, then I would stop.
The gentleman that had a question about fishing dead bait in a situation like what you're talking about, where you've got jumpers but you don't have live bait. If you've got IQF, and then you've got some good dead bait, sliding them into them with just throw a ton of chum and then get those in there, run some iron
if you see a big school jumper, stop and throw whatever you got. Throw swim baits, throw iron. You're trolling through it. You might hook up, but you're gonna have better luck pulling that gear in if you're seeing a pile of jumpers the size of this room. You pulling it, kill your motors, drift into them, and start casting swim baits and throwing stuff. Throwing dead bait if you have it. Chum.
But if you can get a good chunk like that IQF going on the IQF anchovies, even if it's chalked up, you're gonna get.
Yeah, because they're already focused on the surface. So again, they're keying in on bait. They're boiling on bait there. So.
Basically, it's feeding frenzy, you're trying to get something from while the bait's.
Right.
You're trying to.
But trolling over it, you're probably gonna sound it. So yeah, you want to slide in on the big group.
You typically find that July is a troll only down south?
Usually, but the last few years, like last year, we had 35 fish on bait and ended with 50 plus fish the first day out. So, usually it's more of a troll show. We'll maybe get 2 or 3 on stops, 5 or 6, but we don't have those great big stops. But we had some 10, 12 fish stops the last year, early July. So we still, we'll still, the very first hookup, we're still gonna do our routine in hopes that, we can get a bait stop going. But if we do that 5, 6, 7, 8 times in a row and we're really not getting anything on bait, then we'll do more of a troll thing and assume that they're not ready to come up yet. But we'll still target them.
We do one more.
One more question. Yep.
Your IQF, bait, you cut them so they sink better, or
Yeah.
you just cut them off?
Yeah, we usually got somebody's back there with scissors snipping, and then we'll just make a pile and throw them in a bucket. Somebody else get back there and snip and be throwing that while we're trolling. Yeah.
Also, if you, with your IQF, if you thaw some out on your way out, those will sink. You mix them in with some frozen ones, you'll have some floaters and some sinkers, so you're attacking the whole call.
All right. I hate to cut this off because this is good stuff. So I just want to thank you for your expertise. Thank you very much.